Taliban to the table by saying you're no longer the enemy? Or?
No, I appreciate the question, which I remember answering at the time very clearly, which is the United States of America did not send military forces under President George W. Bush to Afghanistan because the Taliban was in power. The Taliban had been in power. Why? The U.S. invaded Afghanistan because attacks were launched against the United States by al-Qaeda located in Afghanistan, and that's why we went in. His point is that there is not, our number one objective, as I just stated in the President's Afghanistan policy, is to disrupt, dismantle, and ultimately defeat al-Qaeda. I think the President's focus on that goal has been clear to the American people now for quite some time, both in the approach he's taken in Afghanistan specifically, and in the approach he's taken in terms of taking the fight to al-Qaeda, most memorably by the decision he made to remove Osama bin Laden from the battlefield. What remains true, as I was saying earlier in answer to Jake's questions, is that peace in Afghanistan will come through reconciliation. There has to be a political settlement. That has been the policy for a long time. Reconciliation of the Taliban is conditional, and it would require any Taliban soldier or official to renounce the use of violence, promise allegiance to the Afghan constitution, disavow al-Qaeda, but there needs to be a political settlement. Now, and for all the reasons that I've said. In the meantime, our military action, the heroics of our military forces, have helped create the conditions that allow for the possibility of negotiations to begin, and we will not let up in that effort. So I think that is a fuller explanation of what the Vice President was talking about. Did something happen? Is there a lull in the action or something? Okay.
I want to follow up on Iran. What is the stated U.S. policy when it comes to Iran's attempt to gain this technology?
The administration is committed to preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear
so
weapon.
It's fair to say that covert action would be on the table.
Well, I'm not going to discuss those kinds of things from here, but we have a policy that's focused on working with our international partners collectively and then obviously unilaterally to put pressure on Iran to abide by its international obligations, to come clean about its nuclear ambitions. We have provided numerous opportunities for the Iranian government to act on the international community's invitation to get right by their obligations. And we will continue to take action to add pressure, increase their isolation, and, until they make the right call.
But you can state definitively that it wouldn't be the policy of the United States to covertly assassinate people.
Well, look,
involved in some sort of attempt like that.
What we've said is that we deplore the violence, deplore the action.
The violence of all of the assassinations.
It is, it's a matter of U.S. policy in terms of the kind of action that you talk about. So I'm not about to revise that from here. This comes up in relation to a specific incident that we have made clear that we had nothing to do with. We've rejected those accusations. We are engaged in an effort to try to pressure Iran to live up to its obligations, to give up its nuclear ambitions, nuclear weapons. We will continue to engage in that effort.
How concerned are you about retaliation? Is the U.S. government concerned about retaliation?
Well, I think we've been categorical and clear about the fact that we're not involved in the death of this individual. Our concern about Iranian behavior is ever present, and we are very vigilant and mindful of various threats that can be that are made, whether they involve the Straits of Hormuz or other areas or issues. So, but I don't have a specific level of concern to convey to you.
If Iran decides to retaliate on Israel for this in a military way, U.S. response would be one.
Yeah. Well, we are absolutely committed to Israel's security. As we made clear again today in our readout of the President's phone conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu. But I'm not going to speculate about what we might do if some action were taken by another country.
Was there any concern, by the way, of making that readout public because that it might feed the conspiracy theorists in Iran?
Look, I don't think there's any
You know, I mean-
secret to the fact that we have an important and ongoing relationship with Israel. We have many important issues to discuss with the Israeli government. The President has many important matters to raise with Prime Minister Netanyahu and vice versa. So that's those conversations are regular and ongoing.
And just one final question. Any reason why you kept cameras away from the President visiting his campaign re-election headquarters?
It was an OTR. I think it was a brief
You guys
drop by.
Love when we cover OTRs at delis, at barbecue restaurants.
Yeah, I think this was
campaign re-election headquarters.
on the fly and brief. The President was very gratified to have the opportunity. I think it underscores the point I've been trying to make from here in answer to questions about the President's re-election campaign, which is that he is here in Washington focused on doing his job as President.
So you weren't concerned that
He
changes
is-
would make him look otherwise?
Well, no. I mean, look, he obviously had campaign events last night in Chicago that you all covered. I mean, we're not hiding the fact that he is engaged in some campaign activities, but as
Little bit. You try and minimize it.
Mark, I try and give you the facts, which is the fact is the President's re-election campaign isn't across the river in Roslyn, isn't in Washington. It's in Chicago, halfway across the country.
And Chuck's point
And that
is that
reflects
if he makes
the
a rare
President.
visit to his campaign
Well,
headquarters.
look, we can debate campaign access. We made clear that he went there. We made clear that you guys come into his pools, come into his when he speaks at these campaign events, and will continue to do so. We release the campaign releases information about its campaign goals, and we're obviously there is a robust effort underway based in Chicago to ensure that this president is reelected so that he can continue to take action to help the American economy grow, to help it create jobs, to protect the middle class, and protect the country as a matter of national. We're not at all shy about that.
Chuck's question.
Let me move around, Julia.
Yes, thanks, Jay. So today,
Up and back, as I do a lot. Yeah.
I saw the Department of Justice memo that they okayed the appointment during recess of Richard Cordray. But the date was January 6th, so it looks like it came to the White House. Cordray was appointed on the 4th, so then does that mean that the decision was made without the approval of the Department of Justice?
No. The fact is the opinion was rendered verbally prior to the date of the opinion itself. The opinion was based on the advice provided by OLC, and it is very standard for, especially as you see in the lengthy opinion that was put out, for those things to be developed over a period of time, and this is the time frame for this is very similar to my understanding to previous occasions. So the decision was the opinion was rendered before the decision made by the president. That's my understanding. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, I wasn't talking to Roger.
Thank you. Couple of questions. Apparently, there's military exercises underway between Israel and the United States. Do you have any details? Is that part of a warning to Iran?
I'm not aware of that. I'd refer you to the Department of Defense.
And what's the situation with the American who's under arrest and accused of spying in Iran? Anything new on his situation?
Well, I've spoken to this a few times earlier this week with regard to the absolutely invalid accusations and sentence levied against him. So we call on him to be released immediately.
Finally, on talks with the Taliban, are you pressing the Taliban to change their attitude toward women?
I think, Connie, I made clear today and on many occasions that reconciliation is contingent upon members of the Taliban laying down their arms, renouncing allegiance to al-Qaeda, and abiding by the Afghan Constitution, which includes provisions protecting the rights of women. Let me get to Roger, then you, John Christopher. Yeah.
Thank you. I was wondering if you had an update on when the debt ceiling request is going to go.
Days, not weeks. That was true a couple of days ago, and it remains true. I don't have anything more specific for you. Well, in that it's not weeks, it's imminent. But when we have something more specific, we'll give it to you. Dan.
Thanks. There are a number of Asian leaders who are going to be visiting the Gulf region, Saudi Arabia, China's premier going there, and South Korean Prime Minister going as well to the region. Is the President satisfied with the progress that Geithner has made in terms of trying to get the oil issue resolved in Beijing? I mean, just some progress with Japan apparently, but what about the Chinese position at this point?
Well, we've been pleased with the progress that has been made. You noted Japan. I think it's also worth noting Europe, and we are continuing to have discussions with other partners and allies around the world about the need to continue to put pressure on Iran so that it ceases its to behave outside of its international obligations. That process is ongoing.
Will he be meeting with Geithner?
I'm sorry?
Will he be meeting with Geithner? How soon will they talk about what was accomplished on that?
He being the president? I'm not sure when Tim returns, but Secretary Geithner is in these hallways quite frequently and sees the president quite often, but I don't have a specific meeting to announce.
Process. Has this administration been in contact or discussions with its allies, including Great Britain, regarding this process?
I'm sure that we are in consultation with all the ISAF countries and with all our allies on this matter. I don't have anything specific to impart to you about that, but you can be sure, since this effort is an international effort, that we are consulting with and engaging with our allies. Mm-hmm. Kristen, I didn't see you back there. How are you?
Jay, can you confirm that the President plans to reprise his deficit reduction plans, which he first mapped out in September as a part of his 2013 budget proposal?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the President's budget proposal, nor do I want to get ahead of the President's State of the Union address, but it is certainly fair to say that the approach the President laid out in September, a balanced approach to comprehensive deficit reduction, reflects how he believes we need to move going forward. So I don't, without getting into specifics about the budget, it's that approach is the one he still believes needs to be taken, and he would very happily endorse a decision by Congress to take up that approach. The process that was put in place by the Budget Control Act that created the supercommittee that created the sequestration remains in place, minus the supercommittee. In other words, the sequester is designed not to happen. It is designed to be a forcing mechanism, to force Congress to take action. And it is simply incontrovertible that the only viable approach to comprehensive deficit reduction, viable both economically and certainly politically, is a balanced approach. That's the approach that has been endorsed by bipartisan commissions. It's the approach that at least some Republicans have said they support, and it's certainly the approach that this president and the overwhelming majority of the American people